We see it as the higher density in the middle as being higher use, more people moving around, and it sort of starts to create its own center, because Oakley sort of does have its own center. I don't know if I ever actually sort of on this one, Oakley Square area. It's sort of like a little esplanade on the street, and it sort of is its own little square itself.
And is that actually on Madison?
Yeah, Madison actually splits. This dash line here is Madison.
Okay.
Road.
So you're sort of trying to pull the energy off Madison into your new community, instead of trying to load it up along Madison.
Yeah, we don't have much access to Madison, so we're trying to pull that up through our site.
We're not looking to detract from Oakley Square or from Madisonville as far as businesses. We don't want to pull out the little boutiques. What we just want to create is this community where everything's available. It improves quality of life, which are right there within the site.
I buy everything you're describing. I wish you could see it. Like, I'm trying to throw an alternative at you, not to put bamboo in your fingernails, but just to try to understand the virtues, because I think it's really smart. I think what you're proposing is smart. It's just, so I should be looking up here.
Well, I'm trying to encourage you to
use what you
the stuff that you actually have developed. You have one more zone to describe.
Yeah, so over here you can see this is our lightest zone, and it's the picture there on the top right is actually taken from and so that's sort of the density we're kind of looking at, and so it does sort of lend itself to more residential use. We aren't regulating that past the residential, but that the character and the qualities of the streetscape and the Madison building does relate to what's going on here.
And it's obviously not an alley-loaded urban diagram of the grid, because I see a street coming off, or driveway coming off the street, right? So they're backyards and back up, and single-family houses.
Yeah, it's you can see it is fairly dense here. This is that picture was taken, I think, for about here.
You think that's 30s or 40s? Well, like when is that Oakley area developed?
It was
teens,
early
20s.
It was a streetcar suburb. Yeah, along with some other areas in the streetcar suburbs.
I guess one of the questions that is arising, and like Gaby has said, it isn't a wrong and right answer. How will this, can you identify the main, what you would consider as Oakley's city square here, and how it's relating to what you're doing? You know, or do you feel that that is the main city square that you're now creating, or town square, or downtown? Is that it? Or?
It's sort of becoming like the downtown of this district. We don't want it to supplement or take away, replace Oakley's square, because we do think it is a very vibrant and important part of that community. It's sort of just adding almost people like a second center.
Okay, all right, that's what I wanted to know. And within that conception, you thought there should be a sort of little Ludlow, like what we have here between Ludlow here, and when you go to Ludlow, between where you have all the stores, and you have the movie theater, and you have the shop, and then at some point it vanishes once you cross the intersection right here, if you start from here. The question then becomes balancing the two, because what I think you are doing is really very important, by recognizing that each neighborhood should have pedestrian access, it should have its own walkability, it should have its own little pocket where you could leave your house and go to have ice cream and come back. All that within the scale, I think you've thought it through, and I thought that that is a rational thing to do. And then, how did you make the decision, if I may, what did you try cutting through here also before you finally decided that, oh no, you're going to just cut through this and preserve this part? What stopped you from cutting through there?
Primarily we sort of looked at.
I mean, if you were bold enough to already say, okay, I'm going to cut through this.
Yeah.
I'm not saying what you've done is wrong or right. I'm just wondering what caused that decision.
One thing we've done is looked at some of some historical aerials and Sanborn maps to find sort of where this building was added onto, and that it's sort of the logical cutting point there. So it sort of is approximately from what we can take about where the rest of it was sort of added onto. And so using that point, we felt, it's not too high up, and this still can kind of relate the historical aspect of it along Madison Road. You can kind of see the sawtooth and sort of maybe see that as a signifier of this area as well. And it's still, and also it helps get this main boulevard up and sort of more towards the center of our district we're creating. Here, and here. So our main street is, of course, Madison Road from the streetcar line. So that's going to be, we see as one of our heaviest uses. The streetcar line, and it's got 4 lanes of vehicle. The diagrams are here too, so this corridor street is Madison here. And then Oakland Boulevard, our other main street coming through, and it's sort of has, it's like a center median with the trees and things like that along it to give it its own character. And the street hierarchy all starts to regulate what happens as far as street width, if there's on-street parking, width of the sidewalks, and how the street trees are laid out, street furniture. So it gives the character of these streets that go through, and they can go through different districts. So as instance of like Oakwood Boulevard here, it does go through dense, but it gets a little bit lighter, so the street character will remain the same as it goes through these different districts or zones. So yeah, here. And then primary street and the secondary streets feed off of interstates, so it's going to have a lot more vehicular access to it. Then we get down to our 2-lane neighborhood streets, which are more of the bulk of the road types throughout our district. So this sort of this medium purple here and the real light purple along here, and through like our lighter areas. And these are 2 lanes with parking on one side, and the sidewalks are a little bit more narrower, because for the most part the density is a little bit lower too in there. And then our final type of street type is a pedestrian street. And those are offset by vehicular. So we have vehicular, pedestrian, vehicular, pedestrian, vehicular. So as you cut through in the vehicle, you can still kind of get around, but the pedestrian has even more ease of use walking through and cutting more paths through than a vehicle can.
If you project it, see if the different, the whole plan, see if the different shades show up better.
It's a little bit washed out. These yellow lines here. And so they essentially alternate street, pedestrian, vehicular. And so we create these pedestrian-only zones that are safer for people and kids to sort of walk through. And our precedent for that is an area called in Freiburg, Germany, called Wallbahn here. And it's approximately the same size as our first 2 phases. It's almost identical, actually. And it has many pedestrian-only streets. It does have a transit line that runs through the center and it takes you through to downtown Freiburg. And it was just completed a couple years ago. And because of the pedestrian-focused nature, 70% of the residents do not own cars. And actually, like 50 to 60% sold their car to move here. So we do see that it is a viable option. It does definitely have potential. People will want to come here because of that. It's more of a draw factor. And then we get to here, this diagram sort of represents the maximum potential build out of the ground floor based on different densities. So T5 is 80%. Yeah. Oh, okay. So this is different ideas of pedestrian crossings. Here are just different ways of going about it. You can see the potentials of bridging that gap. And they all line up with our pedestrian streets, so our connections. You can see here, these are pedestrian streets, these purple